Alright guys, we are going to be reacting to the Teutoburg Forest on, I think it's 9 after Christ, I think, the Roman-Germanic War documentary. We're going to react to this. I think we're in a territory that I never thought I was going to be, so let's lock in and see what's going on here.
This video was sponsored by The Great Courses Plus. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com today to start your free trial.
Okay.
By the beginning of the 1st century AD, the Roman Republic had been replaced by the Roman Principate under Augustus, who ended the period of civil wars and brought back stability. However, the Romans still faced many dangers. To the north, the Germanic tribes were gradually forming larger unions, and they would fight the Roman Empire throughout the next few centuries. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest would become one of the most iconic in the conflict between the Germanic tribes and Rome. The chaotic period of the late Roman Republic finally concluded after Octavian's victory at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. The republican system was irredeemably broken, and Octavian had no intention of giving up the power he had won. In the following years, he expelled political opponents from the Senate and solidified his hold on the collapsing republican institutions. On January 16th, 27 BC, the Senate declared him Augustus, the illustrious one, and granted him ultimate power, effectively making him the very first Roman emperor, though technically the republican facade was maintained. The Mediterranean world entered a period of relative peace, prosperity and stability, known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Augustus further expanded the empire's dominion, annexing northern Spain and Pannonia, in addition to parts of Asia Minor and Judea. Augustus secured his eastern border by making peace with the Parthians, disappointing many Romans who wanted revenge for their defeat at Carrhae. Although the Pax Romana guaranteed peace for the majority of the ascendant empire, there were a few exceptions. In the aftermath of Gaius Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul, Rome had gained new natural borders along the Rhine and Danube. The unknown wilderness beyond this protective boundary was frightening to the Romans, and was home to the fearsome Germanic tribes. In the process of fully Romanizing the formerly Gallic lands, Augustus's most trusted friend Agrippa began to expand a network of roads from Lugdunum to the north, attempting to reach both the English Channel and the River Rhine. The vast area beyond the Rhine was beginning to attract the attention of the Roman elites. This was shown not only by the road building in the region, but also the resettlement of the allied Ubian tribe to act as a buffer between Rome and more hostile Germanic tribes in 19 BC. When the legionary forces of Gallic legate Marcus Lollius were defeated by said tribes in 16 BC, the will of Augustus to conquer the region was said to have strengthened even further. Later that year, he incorporated the region of Noricum into the province of Pannonia, and a year later, his stepsons Tiberius and Drusus the Elder conquered what would become the province of Raetia. Roman incursions into its northern frontier were growing more intense. A few years later, Agrippa and Tiberius attacked the various tribes in Illyricum. Agrippa commanded this offensive at first, but he unexpectedly perished in the spring of 12 BC, leaving Tiberius in command.
Wow.
Under his direction, the tribes in this region were subdued piecemeal. At the same time, Drusus was also succeeding in Germania, quickly achieving territorial gains and wintering in the region for several years, eventually reaching all the way to the river Elbe in 9 BC. However, Drusus fell from his horse and died on his way back from Germania in that year. Tiberius then took command in Germania, treated his foes savagely, and almost succeeded in making it a tribute-paying province. As of 7 BC,
Yeah,
it is
man. These people were built different. I'm telling you, these people were built different. How can I put this into context that I can even comprehend the amount of deletion uh, of the matrix? Like I cannot even comprehend even the barbaric outcomes of some of these wars.
said that Augustus considered it just that, asserting that all the Germanics living between the Rhine and Elbe had submitted. The reality was very different. The Cherusci tribe were one of those pacified by Drusus in these campaigns, and hostages from its most prominent families were taken to Rome. One of these figures was the son of a Cherusci chieftain, Arminius. As a hostage, he served in the Roman military, learned Latin, was awarded Roman citizenship for his contribution, and was made an equestrian. To support the legionary heavy infantry, Rome's leaders recruited provincial soldiers and even men from unconquered territories such as Germania. They served in the auxiliary units of light infantry and were usually commanded by their tribal leaders. For now, Augustus had other problems. In 6 BC, personal matters convinced Tiberius to retire from politics and sail to Rhodes, where he stayed for years. This abrupt withdrawal angered Augustus due to the destabilizing effect it would have on his succession. While Tiberius quickly regretted his decision and pleaded to be allowed to return, the angered princeps refused repeatedly. During this period, Rome gradually expanded its influence even further into Germania. In 3 BC, Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus reached the Elbe with his own army and assisted in the construction of infrastructure to the east of the Rhine. Meanwhile in Rome, Lucius and Gaius Caesar, grandsons of the emperor, were being groomed for the imperial office. However, in 2 AD, Lucius perished, and 2 years later, Gaius died in Armenia, leaving Augustus with no other choice than to recall Tiberius. He was adopted by the princeps, and in turn was made to adopt the 21-year-old Germanicus as his own son. Soon after, Tiberius was sent to Germania and immediately subjugated another series of tribal groups, including the Cherusci. Part of the Roman strategy in this period was to resettle troublesome tribal peoples and move them to locations where Rome could keep a very close eye on them. Around this time, Arminius returned to his people in the north. Power struggles within the Cherusci clan led one faction, led by the clan of Arminius, to become allies of the Roman invaders. They were supported by Tiberius, who constructed a winter fort near their territory on
Well, I mean, these are what? These are tribes, I guess? These are tribes, right?
the Lippe River. Later in Tiberius's command, a huge pincer movement was planned to fully conquer the region between the rivers Rhine and Elbe. However, the Great Illyrian Revolt broke out in 6 AD and required a massive military response, so Tiberius marched south to deal with it.
Oh my god, marching.
As he was now busy with other matters,
Marching south, oh my god. Hundreds and thousands of kilometers, man. Oh my, marching, oh my god. I don't know, these people were built different.
Augustus appointed Publius Quinctilius Varus as the commander in Germania. This general and politician had proved himself to be a competent administrator, both in Africa and the troublesome province of Syria, where he had to deal with the Parthians and quell the rebellions in the region. Modern historians conclude that while Varus was a very good administrator, he was not a soldier. In 7 AD, he was appointed the legate, the governor of Germania, replacing Tiberius, who also took 8 of the 11 legions with him. The Cherusci prince Arminius accompanied Varus and had become a seemingly loyal advisor. The early part of the year 9 AD was successful for the empire in Germania. For the first time, Varus's legions were able to move freely and relatively unhindered through the province, carrying out their duties such as patrolling and road building. The legate himself performed many administrative duties to provincialize the new region, such as tax collection and adjudication of tribal disputes in the Roman legal system. However, all was not to continue going smoothly as summer progressed. Varus began to receive reports that many small detachments of troops patrolling and constructing infrastructure in the supposedly friendly territory were being massacred by tribes such as the Angravarii and Bructeri.
Wow.
This series of
when he talks about this, he mentioned this. It sounds like a great idea. Oh, they're establishing a former government where they can kind of organize some of these villages are probably kind of tribalistics. But at the same time, the tribes don't want that. They just want to just live free, I guess. But then you really start thinking about it, and you're like, oh, well, this is a form of government, you know. I guess the taxes are the problem. I don't know, man. But it looks like the Romans wanted to just basically create something where it can be more institutionalized and you can identify some of those problems. But the tribes were not having it.
Betrayals seemed to be spontaneous, but was in reality orchestrated by none other than the Germanic prince Arminius. At some point, he had decided to turn against his Roman allies, possibly due to the cruelty against people like his that he had witnessed during his service, or simply because he wished to rule his tribe without Roman taxation. Throughout the summer,
I would probably say, like, hold up, man. So that means I can do the same thing that the Romans are doing without the Romans?
Arminius had used the autonomy of his dual role of Roman officer and Germanic chieftain to consolidate local tribal support and to seek allies in the tribes who were always troublesome for the empire.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's it. That's
all
you need.
However, the chieftain's plan was almost foiled by his angered father-in-law, Segestes, who betrayed the plan to ambush the legionary column to Varus.
Yeah, that's it.
Despite this, the Roman foolishly trusted his ally commander and had Segestes taken away. With this done, the army began to march from their summer camp to winter quarters west of the Rhine. However, as he set off, Varus was besieged by some locals to quell a revolt that had broken out to the west, and he adjusted his direction accordingly. Just then, the seemingly loyal Arminius rode up to his beloved commander, professing that he must ride away in order to assemble the auxiliary forces. This would not have seemed odd, because the auxilia were scattered at the time and would take a while to come together again. Though he had moved away, Arminius left a few select men with the column for use as spies. The so-called revolt was a decoy, organized by the traitorous Tuscan prince, who now moved to organize his forces, numbering anywhere from 20 to 30,000. However, his plan was to attack the Romans rather than to aid them. On the morning of September 7th, Varus addressed his army, which had around 30,000 troops, and informed them of the change of plans, promising loot and spoils before marching away. They marched the necessary 16 miles on that day before encamping for the night in the unfamiliar territory that Arminius's local guides were now luring him into. At 7 AM on the 8th, the Romans formed into their marching column prepared for battle, but were taken into an area of heavy forest, which both slowed the march considerably and dangerously strung out the column, isolating many of its contingents. Meanwhile, in the forests, the Germans were watching, and the legionaries were completely unaware. In the late morning, the Romans were met by a shower of stones, arrows, and familiar spears coming from all directions, as the Bructeri tribe launched spoiling attacks against them. At this point, the aim was not to destroy the Romans, but to weigh them down with material losses and more wounded. After causing some losses, the Germans faded away into the forests, accompanied by the guides Arminius had left with Varus. The legions were now blind and lost, as a continuous heavy downpour began. Finally breaking through into open country, the legate now ordered a camp to be erected, where he held a war council. It was decided that the army would continue westward on the forest path, as without their guides, it was the only option.
Wow.
In addition, they would take the callous step of leaving their wounded and baggage train behind to increase speed. Breaking camp in the morning, the legions found that the rain had caused their forest route to become a sea of mud, with fallen trees and other obstacles slowing them on the way. As they thrust deeper into the dense forest, the tribal Germanic warriors struck the Romans again, skirmishing viciously with them. The legionaries attempted to form up to defend themselves, but they were in unfavorable terrain.
Oh my god. That's crazy, man. At that point, you know what is going to happen. At that point, you know what is going to happen.
Noon, they had suffered grievous losses, and the orderly marching column had degenerated into 3 distinct contingents, strung out over miles of trail, with Varus in the rear. The command structure of this column had effectively broken down. Fortunately for them, the Romans again broke into an area of open country by evening and made another marching camp, where Varus held another war council. He now knew that they were in a deadly situation and had to take drastic measures. Valor, a cavalry commander, was ordered to take the Roman horse via a path to the north in order to contact Roman allies and forces to the west. However, as this force rode north, they were attacked and destroyed by more Germans armed with pilfered Roman equipment. When news of this final defeat reached Varus, he and many of his senior officers committed suicide. 2 officers now took command of the bruised and battered force, Lucius Aegius and Caeonius. On the morning of the 11th, Aegius marched further west, where everything was quiet at first. Then he encountered an earthen rampart to his left, which he knew to be a trap. His column stopped, and he dispatched the remnants of 2 cohorts to clear the barricade. Meanwhile, behind him, Caeonius' force had set off to reinforce them, but was attacked by the main mixed infantry and cavalry German horde led by Arminius himself. After a great slaughter and the beheading of Varus's corpse, Arminius then pushed west and violently slaughtered the remainder of Aegius' column, which had been slowed down by the barricade as intended.
Yeah, these people, bro, these people.
The defeat was total and catastrophic for the Romans. Almost the entire force was either butchered or enslaved. Many officers were sacrificed to the ancient Germanic gods in ritual ceremonies, whereas other soldiers were crucified against trees or cooked in pots. The sight would have been a truly horrific scene. In Rome, Emperor Augustus was said to have been so shaken by the defeat that he would bash his head against the wall, infamously shouting, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions!" However, the Romans would not take this defeat lying down, and new battles in Germania would soon come. When we create our videos
Wow, that was amazing, man. Wow. They have another part after this? Yeah, man, this is crazy. I can only imagine the horror these legions went through. I am in the military myself and was stationed in Italy for a few years. A lot of training in the Alps in Germany. Been to many of these locations, and we could talk about it on guard at night. Looking out at the sea of endless trees, dark, foggy, damp, and cold. Just imagining being a Roman soldier looking into those woods, thinking there are thousands of warriors there waiting to rip. Oh my god. When you're marching through Teutoburg Forest and suddenly you hear Guten Tag. That's crazy, man. I hope there's something more after this. What's the continuation of this, man? Teutoburg. It's this one, right? I think. Think so, right? Wow, this is impressive, man. I don't know. Wow. I'm like, oh, incredible. Incredible. There's so many of these too. Wow. Damn, man, that's crazy. Oh, there you have it. There you have it. And these people, yeah, they're a lot of their religion. Well, the majority of the religions at that time was pagan. So these people believe in some weird stuff, right? So they will cook you, they will eat you, they will feed you to the wolf. I guess. Like, I cannot imagine me being one of those soldiers knowing that it's gonna happen. It's crazy. Let me know what you guys think, guys. I'll see you in the next one.